Good evening and welcome to the Brockton School Committee. Today is Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, and the time is 7:03 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we do not have any hearing of visitors this evening. So I'm going to just open the meeting and establish a quorum. Mrs. Ehlers? Here. Mr. Rodriguez? Here. Mr. Homer?
Here.
Tim Sullivan?
Here.
Judy Sullivan?
Yeah.
And the chair is here. Vice chair is present. So we do have a quorum. So item number one is we have the approval of the minutes. I'm sorry, we have the approval of the agenda. So we have items A through B, A through D. Does anyone want to remove anything? Okay, so.
Motion to accept consent agenda?
One second, Mrs. Sullivan, thank you. So since no one has removed anything, can I have a motion to accept items A through D?
Consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Judy Sullivan, seconded by Tim Sullivan. So for the record, I'm going to read the items A through D. It's approval of minutes for August 30th, 2022. Approval of minutes for August 23, 2022. Item C is acceptance of notification of personal appointments, certified personnel. And item D is acceptance of notification for personnel actions, leaves of absence, resignations, and retirements. All in favor of accepting those? Unanimous. Item number 2 is report of the superintendent of schools, but before we start that, there was just a typographical error on our agenda. So 2B is actually going to happen, and that is presentation of the superintendent's end of cycle evaluation. That's going to be on Tuesday, September 20th. So we do not need to vote on that, as that was just a typographical error. Superintendent Thomas.
Thank you. First, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. Two members of the Brockton Public Schools family, Brockton High School Guidance Counselor Megan McDonough, lost her young daughter suddenly just over a week ago. And Dr. Cobbs, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, lost his daughter this past weekend. So I would like to have a moment of silence for them and their families, and may God be with them. Thank you. I'm going to go over to the podium so we can start our presentation on talking about the first 3 days of school. Today was the end, obviously, of our third day. So we'll talk about how it went at each level, and how we'll get a report about transportation as well. So I'll get up and we'll start the slideshow. All right, so this is the first day in a snapshot, and I don't know what's wrong. I gotta fix this thing. There we go. So just some pictures of the first day of school. Some of these you saw in the Enterprise as we welcome students back last Friday. And it was a great day. It was a beautiful day. Thank God the first day wasn't yesterday, which was a tougher day with the weather. But Friday's weather was beautiful to welcome back our students in grades 1 to 12. So a quick overview. As I just said, welcome students in grades 1 through 12. Tuesday, this past Tuesday was the first day for kindergartens at the George School. And then September 12th will be the first day of all our pre-K students and the rest of our kindergarten students, which will be next Monday. Transportation started this year as the first year in-house, fully in-house, with all the buses now in for the first time. We welcomed 81 new teachers. I want to thank the school police and the Brockton Police Department for providing support for the high traffic areas near our school buildings. And then our food service workers delivered over 4,000 breakfasts and 7,200 lunches over the last 3 days. So just some highlights that I saw, because I have been to all schools except for 3 over the last 3 days. And as everybody knows, when school first starts, especially if the weather's bad, traffic is bad at schools. And a lot of our schools were not built for traffic. They were built as neighborhood schools and community schools, and mostly built for walkers. And we know that a lot of parents now drive their children to school, and we have a lot of buses and vans that go to school. So I ask parents, staff, everybody to be patient, because there's, the school police and the Brockton police do a great job supporting us with traffic, but it's going to be congested, and it's 30 minutes on both ends. And I know some people have called and complained, and it's just something that we have to, number one is safety. So it is going to be slow, because the way we have to pick up and drop off students to make sure our students, our parents, and our staff are safe, it's going to go slow. And again, the parking lots aren't very large, and these schools are large schools, and they were not set up, again, for this heavy of traffic. So we ask people to be patient, and it's pretty much on average between 20 minutes and a half hour on each end of the day. Dismissal usually takes longer, because at arrival, you have people come in at different times. Dismissal, everybody's leaving at once. So we just ask people to be patient, and it's all about the safety, first and foremost, of our kids, our families, and our staff. And then just my general take of going around to all the schools is you can feel a different vibe this year. As we know, last year was very difficult. We came back to school. We had a mask mandate. It was the first year back after being shut down for COVID the year before that, then spending a year, most of the year fully remote, and then hybrid, then in person, which was a difficult year. But last year was the most difficult of all in my 30 years in education. It was very difficult for all of us to come back together. And you could see that last year in the schools, as we could tell by some of the issues we had. But this year, I think we're off to a great start, and you can feel the excitement of the students and staff as you walk around all the buildings, and it was just exciting to be back in schools and just see everybody's smiling face, and I think it's going to be a really good year. And so I'm excited about what I saw the first 3 days of school. So I'm going to invite some of the, come on. You got it? Oh, I'm going through this too. So going over enrollment. So this is the Barrett Russell, the pre-K center, our elementary schools, and our K-8 school, the Davis. Right now, the total enrollment is 7,506 at that level. As you can see, the Hancock has gone up to 614. That's because we have pre-K classrooms over there. We opened 2 more pre-K classes over there. And you can see the rest of the numbers, which are really coming back up. As you see, our schools are large. There's some big schools there, which again goes back to where you see a lot of traffic. The Davis is back, almost back to 1,000. But there's your numbers, and again, it looks good at the elementary level for our enrollment coming back up. It'll work that way. Did I double click?
No, yeah.
All right. So you're clicking, Jess, so I'm not clicking?
I'll take care.
All right, so middle schools, as you can see, our enrollment total is 3,147. This is evened out at each middle school, which is great because North finally opened back fully this year to 3 full grades. They welcomed in their 6th grade, so they're back to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which has really leveled out the numbers at each of the other schools. So it has really helped the other schools. Plouffe was pushing 850 and was very crowded. South, East, West, they were all getting, they were all at 600. West was close to 700. But now with North back open, as you can see, it's really evened the numbers out throughout middle schools, which is great. So Brockton High School is at 3,831, pretty much within 150 or so where we were last year. Champions are 148. The Edison is at 153, which will grow rapidly at the Edison. Promise is with 40. Huntington is 48, and then the Virtual Learning Academy. Again, last year we were close to 400. It has dropped this year to 175 because a lot of parents have decided to send those students back in person. Luckily, they've kept them with us in the school system, but we've gone from 400 to 175 in the virtual school. So we have a grand total right now of 15,190. We have 228 enrollment applications that are being processed. So obviously that number of 15,190 will go up by 228, and we'll continue to take, obviously, every student that comes that's a resident will be registered throughout the whole year, and hopefully we get more by October 1st. But it's good to see that the enrollment's starting to go back up. So I'm going to bring up Dr. Murray, Assistant Superintendent of Transportation, and I want to thank Cliff for the job he's done over the last several weeks getting ready for this year's transportation. Cliff is pretty new to the transportation business, but he really has settled in quickly and has done a really great job with the transportation department, and I hope people know how much work it is to start a brand new transportation department in the middle of a pandemic with a driver shortage. So thank you, Cliff.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thanks to the school committee, and thank you for having me here this evening. First, before we get into that, there's some people I want to thank. And first and foremost is our parents and our students for their patience. It has been a trying 3 days, especially yesterday with the weather, and couldn't be more grateful. Been very, very encouraging and really very understanding, as well as the principals and the staffs in the buildings. I can only imagine what it's like waiting with scores of elementary and middle school students for the bus that's late. So I want to thank all those folks. And our drivers and our team have done a nice job. We have 128 vehicles that are in service at the time. We have 109 drivers. We actually have 13. We had a couple more people today who have finalized some paperwork. HR has been really, really helpful. Colleen Prowler, Lisa Oliveira, and Dr. Moran have really helped us trying to onboard as many drivers as we can. If you see, there are districts that are telling parents they're just going to have to get transportation for their students. They can't help them. We have a dedicated staff member for each school in our office. Unfortunately, the first couple of days, 3 of those people were actually driving buses. So I was actually taking more calls. But we do have a system set up with principals, and then again with Jess Hodges with regards to texting families in schools when we realize that a bus is going to be extraordinarily late. I say extraordinarily because we are running probably about an hour behind right now. Kind of the cascade effect. If something happens with a high school run, it goes through the other 2 tiers. So, but working with Jess, I think we're doing a better job. We still got some things to work out. We are looking at our routes and parents' concerns about stops every day. I don't want to say are stretched thin, but we don't have a lot of human resources. Obviously, you can see the difference between the number of vehicles and the drivers. Once we onboard some of these other folks, it'll allow us to shorten some of these routes, free up other vehicles so that we can cut down some of the wait time, especially for our younger students in the 3rd tier. So it has been quite an experience. Jay Hopkins, Rob Sotomayor in the back end have done a fantastic job getting the buses ready. When we have issues, we have people right there in the lot and then up at the office to make sure that the vehicles are in top working condition and that the students are being driven in a safe and efficient manner. So it's been quite an undertaking, but everybody's been really cooperative, and we're grateful for that. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Just
Mrs.
not
Ehlers.
I've been up since 5:30. Just kidding.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. I was part of the collective bargaining agreement. I remember the conversations we were having. How likely do we think, and maybe this is for Dr. Moran, how likely do you think we are to get to the 128 drivers
Well, so
versus 128 vehicles?
our goal actually is to exceed that number. Essentially, what you want to have is about 10% of your workforce is reserves or spares.
Yep.
So our goal really is about 140. And, you know, with the 13 more, we'd be at 122. We do have to keep a couple vehicles in reserve. I mean, you know, for instance, today we had a blinker that just went on randomly and wouldn't shut off. We had to bring that vehicle out of service, make repairs, and we had to use one of our other vehicles as a replacement. So we won't be using all of them, but we've already had discussions with the superintendent and Mr. Petronio about looking forward to expanding our fleet. And I think with the job that Tina Spano has done in our office recruiting experienced drivers, we have a very significant pool of people who are interested working for the Brockton Public Schools as bus drivers who did not have any experience. The training regimen is pretty significant to become a bus driver. There are a lot of hurdles, significant ones that they have to meet. And so once we get the experienced folks familiar with Brockton, familiar with the bus operation, then we have another large cadre of people that we're looking to bring on gradually and train. So I'm very hopeful that we can hit that 140. That might not be something we see until next year.
Yeah.
But we are definitely trying to set it up so that we'll have at least 10 to a dozen spares, and then all of our vehicles, with the exception of the spare vehicles, in service. And I think that will actually happen sooner, probably sometime the middle of the fall.
Excellent. That sounds like a solid plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to make a quick comment. So last year, I was on the phone with you on a regular basis. My phone was blowing up, so something's working right. I haven't received any calls or any complaints. So having the communication, one person designated for each school is wonderful. So I'm feeling there's better communication with the schools and the parents, and we're getting things done a lot faster. Again, for the first week of school, it's only the third day, so.
Well, we've had some missteps, but like I said, the parents have been really good, and one nice thing is when they point things out to us, they know that someone's going to get back to them. And so, you know, we work through each situation on its own, and we've had some good suggestions that we've taken to heart. So it's kind of a team effort, and really our parents, our students, the building administrators have been fabulous as far as, you know, working with us. It's been a good experience.
Wonderful. Any other members with comments or questions? I think we can go on to the next.
All right, great. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to bring up Dr. Karen Spalding to go over the opening for our elementary schools.
Make this a little lower. Good evening. There is no greater joy than watching an elementary student hop out of a car, break away from a parent or guardian's hand, and run towards school with a big smile on their face and lots of joy. And we all have experienced incredible joy watching that happen over the last couple of days. And that joy, that happiness that you see on those first days of school and those smiles that continue through the year are the result of the hard work of a lot of people. It's the custodians who have done incredible work to make those floors shiny and that furniture where it needs to be and those welcoming spaces. It's the bus driver who's waving and smiling at students who are waiting at the bus stop. It's the teachers and the paraprofessionals who are decorating classrooms. And every classroom I was in, which was across 11 schools, every classroom was ready for students. It was decorated, it was organized, it was a welcoming space. It's parents and guardians who entrust their children to us, which is a big deal, to trust a school to take their child for 6.5 hours every single day for 180 days. And that responsibility is something we take very seriously. It's the principals, it's the leadership team, it's all of that work, it's all of you, it's the community standing on the sidewalk waving to that bus as it's going going to school. And so we had great joy. The kinds of things that we heard from students on those first days are, I'm so excited to be back. I missed my teachers, I missed my friends, and this is going to be a great year. And among the staff, the thing that we kept hearing again and again and again was almost some nostalgia for the first day of school. Like almost some relief, like there's something different and better, and we are filled with hope and joy for what's to come, and we felt that in all of the schools we were in. And if you're wondering, did Brockton Public Schools show up to school? They sure did. A little bit less on the attendance on that Friday, for sure. We did still maybe have some folks on vacation, but as you see from the numbers for September 6th, September 7th, today, those numbers are going up. So students are absolutely showing up. At the elementary level, as you know, we launched Launch, as we like to say, our Launch program this year, very successfully. A lot of hard work among a lot of folks, especially the bilingual department, but a lot of folks to really build up structures such as language acquisition coaches to support both educators in Launch classrooms, as well as those educators in other classrooms who are supporting students as well. Community facilitators who have been working to do outreach in the community and connect with families. And then district assessment specialists who have been really staying on top of, really collecting some information about families and students so we can make sure we welcome them and give them all of the support we need. So there's been a lot of exciting things at the elementary level, but if you want some joy, you just come with me to one of those elementary schools and watch those children bouncing and skipping and smiling, and parents smiling, feeling good, knowing that their children are being well taken care of. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Dr. Spalding. Any questions or comments? Well, I just wanted to thank you. I ran into you more recently, yesterday, which is wonderful. So I happened to be at Brookfield in Ashfield. I missed, it was a crazy morning, but I was able to spend some time at Brookfield and seeing the students running and hugging their friends and the smiles. It was so different than it has been the last couple of years. So, and everybody was so excited to get back. So, and as far as the attendance, that's actually better than I thought for the second, given we started on a Friday before a long weekend. But thank you so much for all that you do, and we appreciate the info. No other, I think we're good, Superintendent.
Thank you. I also want to say I was in elementaries, all of them except for two, and the other two I'll visit tomorrow. I just want to commend the teachers, the paras, and the MTAs. People have to understand how much work they do before the school year starts. It's not just the day before kids come back. I mean, they're in there up to weeks ahead of time going in. And if you know that from when you walk around and you look at how their classrooms are decorated, the hallways outside their classrooms. So, I just want to thank the staff, the teachers who have come in most of the summer and really decorated their classrooms and just make it such a warm and welcoming environment. So I want to thank them for that. Next up, we have Dr. Michelle Connors, and will give us an update on the middle school.
Thank you, Superintendent. It's kind of hard to follow Dr. Spalding's enthusiasm, so thank you for that. Next time, can we rearrange the order? Some very exciting things happening in our middle schools, and I first and foremost commend our teachers and our leaders in our middle schools for helping us plan and develop both a new middle school schedule as well as the Honors Academy. So it's very powerful when a small team can come together and make great changes that will benefit our students. So North Middle School, as you heard the superintendent say, is now fully open, which is very exciting. The school looks amazing. Our facility staff, our custodians have done such a great job. As you know, last year, North was just grades 6 and 7, and our Virtual Learning Academy also had a space. So they had to reconfigure a lot to make it back to a full North Middle School again, and they did a phenomenal job. As I mentioned, our new middle school schedules are in place across all of our middle schools, which is a 90-minute block of math and a 90-minute block of ELA. One of the reasons that's so significant is because, as you know, our middle schools had no consistent schedules in the past years, which led to huge issues in equity and access for our students. if a middle school had this double block of ELA and math, by a student's end of their 3 years at the middle school, they could have achieved a full year extra of math that other students didn't have access to. So it was very important to us as a district to really support our families and their children in ensuring equitable access. So that is in place. It's not easy. It's a big change for our teachers, and they are so committed to this work to do what's best for our students. Our coordinators, Candy McGann, Jody Nelson, and Todd Erickson, are in the schools already working with the PLCs and the teachers to help support teachers in planning for effective instruction for this new block. Even more exciting is our Middle School Honors Academy. We have over 1,100 students, grades 6 through 8, who are in Honors Academy classes. Compare that to rising sixth graders coming out of TAG, 75. In the past, this year, 296 sixth graders entered Honors Academy. That's tremendous and very exciting work. Todd Erickson is our coordinator of accelerated programs, and he is working closely with our coordinators in our core content areas and our teachers to really explain what does that mean to be an Honors Academy, what should that look like for the students. We're going to be working with Jess Hodges also in getting all of our documents up on the website so families can really see what are our Honors Academy students doing, so we can continue to expand that program. And our students are excited to be back. Our trends in middle school attendance over the last 3 days really mirror that for our elementary schools. So 81 for Friday, which is to be expected, and then closer to 92 and 93 over the last couple of days, and we expect that that will continue to climb. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Connors. Any questions or comments from the committee? Everyone's quiet today, so I'll make a comment as usual. So the Honors Academy, so many students are so excited about that and the families because, again, the TAG program is a wonderful program, but we were maxed out at the 75. And this is giving, we have 296 sixth graders that are able to get into the Honors Academy. So this is definitely a positive. I'm hearing so many amazing, comments from students and their families. So looking forward to seeing what's going on with the Honors Academy and other things at our middle schools. I've been, stalking everyone's Facebook pages to see what's going on. So a lot of exciting things coming up.
Yes.
Definitely a lot of exciting things. So thank you so much. I think we're on to the next superintendent.
Next up, I'm going to bring up Principal Cindy Burns of Brockton High School to give us an update on the opening here at Brockton High.
Down. Good evening, everyone. I can just echo what the superintendent led off with in terms of tone. Right, it is markedly different. So much positivity, so much excitement. Dr. Spalding talked about the smiles on the elementary faces as well. The smiles on the high school students' faces are also incredible. So just briefly on enrollment, our ninth graders are the largest class, 1,268. Grade 10, 957. Grade 11, 723, which I think is the most COVID-impacted year. And then grade 12, our seniors, we have 801. And we've registered over 170 students since July 1st. So a big thank you to Melissa Shepard and Nori Harris for getting all those students registered and in the right place. Our attendance rate, 86%. When you break that down, juniors and seniors are almost at 90%. Sophomore is about 88, and it's really the freshmen right now, about 82. So we as an administrative team at Brockton High and teachers are committed to looking at data in real time. So we're going to keep an eye on that freshman attendance rate and make sure we're kind of doing a deep dive into what's happening there and where our freshmen are. But that's a focus area for us. We are very excited, and the teachers are very excited to have our attendance policy back in effect. We had that kind of temporarily relaxed due to COVID, but it is back, and it's going to help a lot with making sure that students are feeling the need to get to class, and we will be doing a lot of outreach to parents and to students to make sure that they understand the policy, but also to make sure that it's not punitive. We really don't want students failing due to attendance, so we have buybacks in place, and we'll be working closely with our behavior interventionists and our adjustment counselors to see what's going on before it gets to a point where a student has too many absences. So that's one thing we're looking at. Morning entry, we've had a lot of changes there. So one of the things we did this year was a new attendance system for students to have their attendance taken. That was due to scholarship. Our previous system, the company was backing off. They weren't supporting it anymore. So I want to thank Dr. Precious and all the team in data services for really helping us develop a new system that works with our Infinite Campus to take attendance directly into Infinite Campus. What that involved was a lot of work, particularly on the part of Associate Principal Kopp and the team at Brockton High. We needed to have new IDs for almost 4,000 students. So we got those all printed and designed and out to students for opening day. We have a new homeroom period, which has done a lot to calm the building in the morning and get kids where they need to be. So that's been very, well received by everybody. Day one, some minor delays at the door, mostly due to the fact that we had to get all those IDs out. We have, over 1,000 freshmen that needed to be aware of how to enter the building through the weapons detectors, but absolutely very minimal. And then day two and day three, we had homeroom and period one starting on time, which was incredible. So that was really a great thing to see. We are doing right now a school-wide pilot for PBIS throughout the school, which has really begun with our core values, Boxer Pride, and we are teaching these to students right now. So we are actively using the homeroom period to teach what pride is, what are those values, which would be being positive, being responsible, being inclusive, determined, and empathetic. So we were going to be teaching those throughout, term one in a very deliberate and focused way. We began the year with a particular focus on responsible use of the cell phone, because we've been getting a lot of, kind of concern from teachers about, we want to very much embrace, and we are, the 90% proficiency rate. It's very hard to do that if students are distracted during class time on a telephone, either playing video games or whatever it is. So we are focused in on that, and we are actually using student ambassadors to kind of help us kind of get that message out about being responsible with the use of the cell phone. You'll see there a picture. This summer, we had over 80 students that came in the hottest days of the summer and trained on the PBIS model, trained on how to kind of help our freshmen out. So they are our freshman ninth grade mentors. So we continue from last year's trend of giving students voice and giving them leadership roles in school. So those 80 kids were phenomenal. They basically ran the show, but a big thank you to Meredith Nussbaum, who coordinated that, and we also had a couple of teachers that came in and helped us. So that was wonderful to see, and they're going to continue on as student ambassadors as we roll out the PBIS pilot. During the summers, Brockton High doesn't stop in the summer. We've had, summer school and different programs in there. And I want to take a moment and stop and thank the facilities, Dr. Cobbs, all of the custodians in the building. I mean, we had programs running there right up until the first week in August, and the building looks great. Floors are shiny, rooms are clean, a lot of work on, whiteboards in the rooms. So anything that teachers needed, we got, and the building looks phenomenal. So like I said, the building doesn't stop. Over the summer, we had hundreds of student athletes who were working out all summer with the TB12 program. So our fall sports are underway, and already girls soccer, shout out to them, their first victory, 7-0, a very nice game. So important. We also had, over the summer, four students were selected to the Girls and Boys State program that's held at Stonehill College. And this is really amazing. One of our seniors, Juliana Gobi, was selected. There were only 2 kids from the state of Massachusetts that were selected to act as senators. They got to go to Washington, D.C. and participate in the Boys and Girls State National competition. So, like I said, the good things at Brockton High, the positive things at Brockton High, keep going all year. So those are kind of our quick snapshot of the first 3 days of Brockton High. And any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Anyone with any questions or comments? Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, hello, Ms. Burns, a great presentation.
Thank you.
I was just on the metal detectors. Was there any delay like there was last year?
No. And I have to thank school police, Lieutenant Jones. The first version of the detectors that we had were slow. And then it was actually school police that went out and did the legwork and found us more advanced versions of those. So they're actually weapons detectors, and there's really literally very little delay with those at all. So the delay in the morning on the first day was really getting the IDs out, and we had to move to a different scanner. So we've actually worked with the house teams to figure out ways to move students into the IRCs to wait in line so they're not out in the rain. Like you remember those pictures from last year? So that was phenomenal. We had the really rainy day yesterday, but we didn't really have many long lines at all. So, those are excellent products, and we've have new people in who are helping us work those, and the training has been great from school police on how to run them, and they've really been no issue at all.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. How do we address the IDs if a student shows up without an ID? Who has the responsibility of making sure that this student actually belongs here at the high school?
So as they enter the building, there's a scanner, and if they don't have the ID, they are adults there that direct the student into the IRC, and it might be a case where they just didn't pick it up yet, in which case they're at a table and they can go and pick it up. If they don't have one at that time, we've purchased printers that will print the student photo ID right off of Infinite Campus, and they wear that one as a temporary, and then we will, the printer is actually going online this week, that will actually print out the new cards. The original batch of cards were printed by an outside company, so we could get that going and have them ready. So any new student entering or students that for whatever reason weren't in that original print, we now have the ability to print those IDs out in the assistant dean's offices. So those are happening, if not right at the moment, at lunchtime or later in the afternoon. But they will have those. And I would say that, you know, unlike last year, the compliance with students wearing the IDs has been great, right? You see them, and even the ones that are kind of like, maybe not, they're in the pocket or they're under the shirt, and it really is a matter of just a gentle reminder. And I haven't had any real pushback. Kids like, yes, sorry, ma'am, and I'll take it out. And it's really not been an issue. Hoods have not been an issue, have not seen the kids wandering like we did last year. So when I say the vibe is really positive, it really is. So I'm going to knock on wood because we're at day 3. But the point with the PBIS pilot is to really teach those behaviors as positives and to reward it. So we have an assembly at the end of the month where we're going to be, you know, last year we had to go through the hall and find kids that were doing the wrong thing and give them a consequence. With our assembly at the end of the month, we're going to go through the hall, find kids doing the right thing, and give them a ticket to the assembly. So it really is a kind of a mind shift in terms of, you know, getting the students to take part in that. That's the student leadership. So students were a part of writing the behavioral expectations that we want to see. We brought student groups in, we brought teachers in, we brought parents, we brought administrators in. So that was a community effort to kind of identify the behaviors that make the school calm and safe and a good place to learn. And so that's really where we're going with that.
Thank you. The class president, has that been set for a date to select the
Yep. We
each
have an
class?
election.
I'm going to ask that.
Yeah, we have an election coming, so we have to, you know, get the students' nominations and let them have time to record their nomination speeches. Unlike previous years, due to the pandemic, we were not able to do in-person voting, but this year we'll be doing in-person voting in each building. So we will have that underway and have hopefully by the time we get all that done and recorded, we are anticipating doing the elections at the end of the month, early October at the latest. So we'll have that person in place, or that leadership team. It's not just the senior president, it's also the other class officers. The advisors are already kind of chomping at the bit to get going. And a big shout out too to Nancy Tucker over the summer, who kind of pulled some students together, and they helped distribute backpacks of school supplies. So that's the kind of, like I said, when you talk about Brockton High, and I said this to the teachers on opening day, you know, 80 kids came in over the summer to help us, right? Because they're proud of their school and they want people to see how much they love their school and they want to share that with others. And if you could just call kids, you know, over Teams over the summer and say, hey, can you come in and help us hand out backpacks? And they're all about it. And a lot of those are the kids that are the class officers. So I look forward to working with those groups again and empowering more groups of students to work with us and talk with us about different, you know, aspects of how they want their school to be, which is really what you need to do with older kids to make a climate positive and a place where they want to be at school.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I am going to just make a quick comment. So I can always rely on Ms. Tucker from the LOIRC anytime I need help with anything. And
Yeah.
I believe Mo is one of our seniors, because I have an issue giving someone else authority as far as, so Mo was in charge and I was outside, so it worked out great. So and we have such an amazing group, and they're always willing to help out. So that's the one thing I love about our BHS students.
Yep.
They love helping out. They want to volunteer. But can we just touch base, the homeroom attendance? How long are they in the homeroom for the attendance? Because has that helped? Because in the past, you know, they were just going right to their first period, and
Right.
that's probably helping as well.
Right, so they sign in for attendance at the door, right? And then they go up to homeroom, which is a 7-minute period right before their period 1 class. But there's also attendance taken there. So it makes an accountability factor for students because they know they have to get into that homeroom. We also did multiple calls home to parents explaining that process. We sent things out to all of the students. The nice thing about older kids is that you can actually communicate directly with them through Teams. So they got the schedule, they knew what was coming. We've also given them copies of the handbook, particular sections that we wanted to highlight about, the hoods and the, cell phones, and really kind of explaining that, hey, this isn't new stuff. This is stuff that we have always had, and we're just looking at it for your benefit. Because if you're distracting the school, in your classroom by being on a telephone, we can't do the work we need to do to get everybody to 90%. And we've shared that 90% goal. That's the other good thing about having older kids, right? The students know the 90% proficiency goal, and they understand it. So we will be talking with them about why that's important for them. We have early college pilot also going, and part of that is getting kids that maybe aren't that traditional early college kid. You think that sometimes the honors kids or the AP kids, but early college is really meant to expand the potential pool of kids going to college. So when we talk to the students about 90% proficiency, we're talking to them about their future and their college plans, and we're having that conversation, and that's the plan. We're going to be doing mini lessons. So that 7-minute homeroom period is going to become very important for having conversations like that with the entire school. And then in addition to all this, we will be doing assemblies. Like I mentioned, the assembly we're having at the end of the month, but we'll be doing particular targeted assemblies with all the 9th grade students about, all the things they need to do to be successful at Brockton High.
Thank you. I'd love to see the freshman orientation, the 80 students that participated in that. If we can get them or have some kind of a program where they go out to the 5th graders before, they even get to the middle school to show them what we offer at the high school. Students are more, they're going to relate more with another student than they would with an adult. So I'd love to just start doing something like that. Show them all the programs we offer at the high school, all the vocational programs. Not everyone's going to go to college.
Sure.
But we need to get the word out, so I'm working on that
We
with the
piloted that a little
superintendent.
bit last year with the Senior Voices group that met with the superintendent, and they actually teamed up with a 5th grade class, and they did a little fundraising together. The 5th grade class was raising money for Ukrainian refugees. So our seniors dedicated they had a basketball game, and they had proceeds, and they gave the money to the 5th grade class, and they were like beaming. And the 5th graders got to meet the seniors, and they were talking about books they liked. So that's an incredible opportunity, and it's one of the things that I've been working with Jess Hodges on about showing the high school, because we want kids to not leave us. We want kids to come to Brockton High. It is a great place to learn. It's a great environment with incredibly dedicated faculty. And they were so excited, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our opening day convocation and just how excited they were to be back and to be working with kids, and everybody talking about the positive kind of vibe that's going through the building. Now it's our job to sustain it, because we know there's a honeymoon, and we know there's things that sometimes, here we go. But that's the purpose of the PBIS pilot, because we really want to be looking carefully at our data about what's going on, and as we look carefully at the data, we'll be able to quickly react to things and plan around it. And so I'm really happy to work with our assistant principal for climate and culture, Gary Guillotot. We've already got some things planned to kind of be inclusive and be, involve all types of students, and a big push on working to really train all teachers on how do we work with our students, with multilingual students, to make sure that they're getting equal access to everything at Brockton High. So there's a lot. I could go on, and I don't want to monopolize anybody's time, but I'd be happy to come back and talk about any of the PBIS stuff, because it's really a big project, and it's going to take a lot of work to roll it out. But it's already showing, because the kids are like, okay, I kind of get the phone thing. I'm not happy, but so I'm hearing, positive things back, particularly from the teachers who are really excited to be able to not have that as an issue, and that it's somebody that we as administrators can support them to get that part of it, kind of under control, so they can do the work that they need to do academically. So.
No, definitely. And back to the students coming into the high school.
Yep.
One thing I hear is they're intimidated. It's the high school's too big.
Right.
So
Right.
get them in here so they get familiar and they're not afraid.
Right.
Just get them in here. Because, I admit, sometimes I still get lost. And I haven't been here since the 90s, early 90s.
Sure.
But the more familiar they get with the high school, they'll get comfortable. And then we're not going to lose them to surrounding schools.
So I would encourage any parents out there. We are having our football game in October is basically we're inviting all elementary age, middle school age students to come up and join us at the football game. We're going to have some free giveaways. We're going to have some students walk out on the field with the high school students. Our Thanksgiving football game is at Fenway Park this year, so we want that to be a school district-wide, not just for high school kids, but tickets available to the elementary schools and the middle schools. And I think we're having a couple of fan buses to be able to get people up to Fenway and really use that as a community celebration of, sports is a uniter, and it's one thing, and then the academics is the other part. So, it's really both of those things. We're going to improve, we're going to hit our 90%, but we also want to make people less intimidated and understand that there's like a dedicated group of people there, and all people are welcome, right? All people. And that's one of the messages that we've also been sending out. We're going to have a special day where we are going to work with our life schools population and have different student ambassadors and different groups come together and do a program with them, in conjunction. So we're excited to bring the different groups at the high school together and really use the strength, because our diversity is our strength at Brockton High. And I think that students see that, and when they feel that, and that's been a great work that we've done with Gary Guillotot really spearheading that, but we're going to continue on with some of that great work. So,
Thank you.
anybody else?
I think we're good. On to the, thank you, Superintendent.
I just want to go back to the cell phones. As you can see, a lot of districts across the state, I think Springfield's one of them, they're starting to have students put in these magnetic bags. And so, no, first I want to say I'm not an advocate for taking students' cell phones away, because I think it's just, it's an important part of safety in a building. I have 3 daughters in high school, and I want them to have their phones with them. But we do have to have a conversation about responsible use, because you walk around middle school, you walk around high school, and, I walked in some classes and the students in the back, and they're watching a Netflix show. It's actually a show I enjoy, but it's just not the time and place to watch it in the middle of a classroom. So we really have to have those honest conversations with our students, with our parents. Again, I am not an advocate for taking cell phones away from students. I'm not an advocate for locking them up during the day. I think they should have them, but we do have to hold our students accountable for when they use them. The high school has been great. I mean, we changed the cell phone policy back when I was still there, where students weren't allowed to have them at all, and then we allowed them at lunch. We allowed them, during, even during study, they could use them, just use them but not talk on them. But, we really have to start to rein in how students are using them, because when I was at the high school, you couldn't watch Netflix or a video on the cell phone. It was mostly just text messaging. But now it's really distracting students, and it's an issue across the country. So I think we have to start to have an honest conversation with our students and our families about the acceptable use of a cell phone in a school. And that doesn't mean taking them away, but we do have to have conversations about how much it is distracting students from their academic work. So it's just something we'll continue to talk about as we go through this school year, but it's something we definitely have to have it addressed. So next, I'm going to bring up Deputy Superintendent Sharon Wolder to talk about our pathways. Pathways are now formerly known as alternative schools, which we do not call them anymore. They're called pathways. And she'll come up and talk about how the school year started for them.
So we'll go with best year ever. How about that? It's exciting to hear all of the things that everyone has said so far. At the last meeting, Mike and I stood up and talked about how we're moving forward as a district and our commitment to supporting our schools and our educators and our families. And to hear people say how wonderful things are is speaking to the work that we're trying to do. And Mike said at the last meeting that our proficiency starts with relationships, and you're hearing it over and over again with every one of these presentations. We are committed to doing what we need to do to bring this district where it needs to go, and that is to the 90% proficiency, starting with how we relate to each other. And so I'm excited to hear Ms. Burns talk about Brockton High School and just how it opened up differently, to hear Michelle and to hear Karen talk about what happens with our elementaries and middle schools. And with our other schools, it's the same thing. If you haven't been to Champion yet, you've got to get there. The doors open, the students are excited, the adults are excited. They are in a space that honors them, that respects who they are, that respects the work that's going to happen there. The facilities department did a fabulous job making that place that had been something else into the school that it needs to be for them. So they got off to a great start. It was exciting for them. They walked around looking, everything was clean and neat, and people were saying, I'm sorry, I haven't put all my decorations up yet. But they're excited about the space that they're in, and the students felt good about it. And that's where it all begins, when you're trying to help someone feel like you belong, you matter, we respect you, and this is your home for learning. That's what we created at Champion. So thank you to everybody involved with that. And the same for Promise. Promise is a small space on the fairgrounds, 440 Belmont Street. They opened with just ninth graders, 40 students who chose to be there, who chose to wear uniforms, who chose that school instead of some of the other schools that they were looking for out of the district. And as the principal there said, these are the kinds of schools that keep people from leaving Brockton. And she was right. There were 6 students who were looking elsewhere, and they stayed to go to Promise. And so that small school with just ninth graders is off to a great start, listening to, respecting the voices of students and families, and giving them choice and voice in their learning. And that's the work that we will continue to do so that we can go from where we are right now to our 90% and hopefully get there before 5 years. Any questions? I tend to walk away before I ask you that.
It's okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? So I know I'll be visiting the school. If not this week, I'll visit it next week. And I was in the area where Champion is, and now that I can just pop in anytime, I'm going to stop by and check it out because I saw it before the renovations. So again, our facilities, you know, we're doing a lot as far as our schools and new buildings that we're working on. But if no one else has any comments or questions, thank you so much, Superintendent.
Sharon? So quickly to finish up with facilities, again, you just heard Sharon talk about the new Champion and the Promise School. We also, you know, coming up on September 28th, the MSBA senior team will be visiting here at 1 o'clock to review our application for a new renovated Brockton High School. So everybody's welcome to attend that. They start with an hour meeting, asking a bunch of questions about the facility, about our maintenance plan, and then obviously they walk the building to see the deficiencies. So we also need to continue to work with the mayor's office. The Downey School needs a new HVAC system. It's something that we have to continue to push for because it really is struggling, and it needs to be changed out. So we're working with the mayor's office. Obviously, we can't fund that, but we need to make sure we can secure the funding from the city side to get that HVAC system. Pretty much next spring, it needs to start to go through a changeover. So we'll continue to work on that with the architect and the engineers. We also will be going to City Council on the 19th of September to talk about our turf field for the back of, right behind this AZF skating rink. The fields that would be for soccer, football, and other athletics, not only for Brockton High School, but for the city. So we're looking for the $1.8 million that the city bonded about 3 years ago, and to be used for the fields behind the AZF. And then we're also going to ask the city consider some turf for our middle schools as well, the 4 Compass schools. So we'll be visiting them on the 19th. I'll also be giving them an update on the new strategic plan on that night, and also the proficiency commitment as well at the city council. So so facilities, we're moving along. So again, if we can secure, and also it's important, as you know, to secure a new bus depot and get that in place by the time we get into the winter. So that's the facilities update. I just finally just want to say, as we talk about relationships, and you saw going back to the high school and putting our homeroom back, and again, in most districts, putting a homeroom and adding that time back into a schedule, all that has to be negotiated. Most districts, that would take 3 years to do. But, Kim and her team, how well they work with us and the school committee. We knew how important, her team knew how important it is to get that homeroom time back into the Brockton High schedule. So I want to thank Kim and her team for their cooperation, because, again, most districts, that would take a long time to get that time back into a schedule. So it's much appreciated. So again, it's everybody working together, and we're excited about the opening of school this year and a new year, and it has a different feel, which is great. Do I have anything else, Jess? Oh, staff and Kathy, there you are. I skipped right over you. She probably was like, don't look.
Thanks, Jess. Thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to reiterate, as Superintendent Thomas said, we've brought on 81 new teachers this year, which is very exciting for us. We did have new teacher orientation on August 25th, where we had many district administrators talk to the new group. Kim Gibson from the BEA brought a team to talk to them about the union, and it was an exciting day for them to introduce them to the district. And I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have openings still. Jess is grateful enough to post those on our website, so if anyone is still looking for a position, please feel free to check out our website, and you can apply online or through SchoolSpring. So but we're happy to have new people on board and get the year started. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the committee? Welcome to the BPS family, to the 81 new teachers. Thank you, Dr. Moran.
That's it.
Thank you, Superintendent, for that presentation. I apologize. I actually forgot to mention, I was always in a rush to start on time our meeting, that I forgot to mention that the mayor had a previous engagement this evening, and he wasn't able to attend. So I just wanted to mention that. So, next item, do we have anything to refer to subcommittee?
Yes, so I'd like to refer the Wonders 2023 ELA curriculum, the new curriculum that has been curated and approved by DESE, that we are looking to purchase for K to 5, refer to a curriculum subcommittee. So if Vice Chair, you're the chair of that committee, because it's a committee of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can work with Melinda to get that scheduled. Do we need it, Karen, before the end of this month? Yeah. That'd be great. Before the end of September. It's important because we received a grant from the Department of Ed to help us purchase the new curriculum. And it's important for you to see it and understand about, because it's a big shift. As you know, the current curriculum we're using at the elementary level, not highly rated by the Department of Education or the curate process, so we'll be switching over. And just the team, Karen and her team, want to present that to you. So it'd be important to get that done by the end of this month.
Mrs. Campbell, maybe if we can try to add it to the September 20th, if we don't have a full schedule, if we can sneak that in before to meet the deadline by the end of September. Okay, anything else for items to refer to subcommittee? I know we're waiting on scheduling something as far as facilities. We received the contract, but I know we were going to schedule a facilities subcommittee for sometime in October. If Mr. Sullivan, as chair, if you can work on that with Mrs. Campbell. Thank you. Unfinished business. Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, I had a question on 2B. Is there a timeline when that has to be done, the superintendent's evaluation? Have we gone past it?
We
By
addressed this at the
October
last
1.
meeting, Mr. Sullivan.
By October 1st.
Yeah, we already
It just
addressed
seems
that.
like it's been 2 months since we did it. Just
Well,
wonder what the delay, I know there's a typo in this, but what is the delay?
We went over it at the last meeting, so the delay is one of the members wasn't here and our chair wasn't here, so we pushed it out. It's under control. It's going to be at the next meeting. There is no major issue as far as presenting it at the September 20th meeting. So, and we discussed it at the last meeting. If you want to just check the minutes, you should have some info in there. And feel free to reach out to me afterwards if you have any other questions. But the presentation's already been prepared, and we thought all the members should be here when we present the superintendent's evaluation, since all the members were part of it. So to present it when we had two members not here, and we knew they weren't going to be here, that's why it was removed. Okay. Anything else under unfinished business? Okay, any new business? All right. That looks like, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion's been made by Mr. Homer, and it's been properly seconded by Mrs. Ehlers. Meeting adjourned. If I can get a vote to adjourn the meeting? Unanimous?